Welcome to Whitetail Rendezvous, hosted by Bruce Hutchin. I'm so happy you've joined us today, and you're going to find out a lot about whitetail hunting on the show. This is a special episode of Whitetail Rendezvous. I'm heading to the Iowa Deer Classic, and Steve Finegan is hosting us at the Iowa Deer Classic. So stay tuned to hear all about Steve Finegan, Iowa Deer Classic, coming up in Des Moines, Iowa, March 3rd through the 5th.
It's never too early to think about food plots. Whitetail Rendezvous has an ebook for you. Just simply text 33444 food plot to get your copy.
Welcome to another episode of Whitetail Rendezvous. This is your host, and we're heading to Iowa today. And pretty soon, well, a week from today, it's Wednesday, I'll be heading to Iowa to the Iowa Deer Classic, and I have Steve Finegan, who is Mr. IowaShows.com. Steve, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having us on. I got lots to talk about with the Iowa Deer Classic.
Well, and we're excited about that. Now, what is the specific title of your company?
Well, the company is Iowa Show Productions, but this particular show we're talking about is called the Iowa Deer Classic, which is billed as the greatest whitetail show on earth, and it truly is.
Well, I've heard about it, and I went to ATA, and I had a bunch of people say, man, you got to come to the Iowa Deer Classic. And I go, okay, fine. And so I'm driving in from Colorado, and we had a nice conversation the other day. And so I want my listeners to understand the breadth and scope and the history of the Iowa Deer Classic. So the mic's yours, Steve.
Okay, well, this thing's been around since the early 1990s. It has grown into one of the premier whitetail hunting shows in the country, as evidenced by the number of exhibitors that we track. This year I've got in excess of 300 exhibitors that come from all over North America. They represent many of the first-class hunting vendors and manufacturers and all that from all over the country, as well as outfitters and hunting opportunities, frankly, around the world, because I've got New Zealand and I've got Africa, and you can get in touch with hunting just about anything, really, when it comes right down to it at the Iowa Deer Classic. So I've got that, and then of course another thing that's always, you mentioned ATA, and one of the fun things about ATA is a lot of these hunters are dreamers, they're thinkers, they got time in a tree stand, and they're always dreaming up a new way to do things differently and a new whiz-bang idea. We'll have some of those represented too, because there's always new products coming forward. So that's our vendor part of the show. And so, yeah, in one place you can come and peruse all those different kinds of things. We've got a whole list on our website. In addition, you can learn at the show. We've got a whole host of seminars. We get some of the leading personalities and celebrities with the TV shows from the outdoor world, as well as some of the other experts doing seminars. I've actually got 3 stages going on at once during the show, so you kind of got to pick and choose your schedule. And by the way, this goes on for 3 days. It's a Friday, Saturday, Sunday deal, and I find people like to come for all 3 days. In fact, we get them coming from all over the country. So it's also a case of archery is a huge component of this show. You can bring your bow and actually participate. Target archers like our 300 competition shoot going on, and then there's a simulated hunting situation with a pop-up shoot going on there. We mentioned big deer. Boy, you're going to see big deer when you come to the Iowa Deer Classic. We have a big buck contest. We encourage hunters to bring their deer in to have them officially measured. We've got I think I've got close to 40 measurers that are some of the most experienced in the country for measuring white-tailed deer, and they'll be there measuring up racks. We usually see somewhere around 300 to even 400 deer come in to be measured in the contest, and of course they get put up on display. And so I've got I must have 300 or 400 feet of display wall up with some of the best whitetails that have been taken in the last year or so. And then on top of that, anybody that's ever shot a deer in Iowa, that's been to the Iowa Deer Classic, and it meets the Boone and Crockett all-time book standards, the minimum scores there, we invite those folks to bring their deer back each year and put them on display, and we call that the All-Iowa Whitetail Hall of Fame. And we'll see about 100 deer on that display every year that are all Boone and Crockett qualifiers, and I'll tell you what, that is really impressive.
Well, I was
go ahead.
going to say you're going to have the new state archery record, non-typical 282, and the crossbow at 194.
That's right. We have 2 confirmed that are coming, and of course there'll be some of them that we haven't even heard about yet that'll be coming. So we're expecting some real giant deer. This new non-typical is a really nice deer, and as well as the other one, the crossbow deer is a typical at 194. So that's world class right there. So yeah, we're expecting those as well as a whole bunch of other ones. And hey, deer hunters are into shed hunting these days. We got the North American Shed Hunters Club. They are officially measuring and entering deer in the record books as part of the show, and they've got their national display there that they bring along to the show each year, and so you can see shed antlers. And it's not just deer with the shed antlers; they've got elk and moose and all other kinds of neat bone out there in their display. So it's a case to see how your deer compares with other deer. That's definitely part of the show.
Well, there's a lot of bragging rights, and as you told me, you said Saturday, Bruce. Good luck moving through the aisles, and I look forward to talking with some people, getting some live feeds on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter, and then hopefully I'll get 5 or 10 minutes from some of your guests, some of the people there, attendees, and talk whitetails a little bit and talk about what's so special about Iowa Deer Classic. And you just gave a great overview of some of the reasons that people flock to Iowa, to Des Moines, Iowa, on March 3rd, 4th, and 5th, and to see what's really happening in the whitetail community, because everybody can't go to ATA. I understand that. But
well, that's limited access, and so you're going to find it a target-rich environment for you.
Yeah, and I got I give a shout out to Julie Swanson. She took care of me on my Wi-Fi, so I'm good to go, and I'm excited to go, and I'm going to get this today's Wednesday. I'll have it up by Friday, so we can start promoting. And having said that, how do people get a hold of you or whomever to get registered, buy their tickets, find out where it is? Tell the listeners how to do that.
Sure. Well, the simplest way is to just jump on the old World Wide Web. It's www.iowadeerclassic.com. Pretty simple. The other one would be iowashows.com, or they can give a call to the office here. It's 319-232-0218. They can send emails to us. Probably the simplest one is info@iowashows.com. I am sold out as far as exhibitor space goes this year. In fact, I added 25 new booths, and they're all occupied. So I'm not looking for vendors at this moment, but in the future, I'll be looking for vendors, of course. So, yep.
And hopefully this will become an annual event. I don't see why it wouldn't. That will get Steve on the week, basically a week before the show, and to give him support, because Iowa Deer Classic, I've heard about it for years, but it is a gathering place, and we're all community. We're all interested in deer hunting, and it's one of the few places on planet Earth this many deer hunters can get together and talk deer and see deer that make deer of your dreams, and then meet some people and people that are in the industry providing all the gear and things that we use every day. And so, who are some of the celebrities that the people might see at the show?
Well, our headliner are Pat and Nicole Reeve of Driven TV. They're there all 3 days. Hey, we've got T-Bone, Travis Turner from Bone Collectors. He'll be there on Sunday. He's only able to make a one-day appearance. Iowa's own Bill Winke from Midwest Whitetail is going to be there. Philip Vanderpool. Hey, if there's any MMA wrestling fans out there, they probably remember Tim Sylvia. He was a one-time, I think, world champion. And anyway, Tim's going to be in attendance. We've got Adam Hayes. His claim to fame is that he shot 4 whitetails over 200 inches. So he'll be there. Bobby Henline is one of America's finest. He was injured in, I believe, Afghanistan, and now he's doing comedy. Kind of an interesting story on him. Chip Beeman, he's claim to fame is long-range shooting. He's going to be doing seminars. David Holder and the Holder family will be there with Raised Hunting. They've actually moved to Iowa now, and so they're another Iowa product. We'll claim them now, as well as Andy Ross with American Rebel TV. He's going to be there. Those are some of the ones that pop right out at me, and a lot of them are going to be doing seminars. There's 3 stages going on with seminars every day, and we got something new. This is kind of a family-oriented thing because we definitely want to attract kids and get the whole family involved in this whole hunting thing we all enjoy, and that's a West Texas rattlesnake show. This guy is gonna come and he'll amaze you with what he knows about rattlesnakes, and as well as show a few things about them. And he's quite a rattlesnake handler, so you're gonna enjoy Dave and Cindy with the West Texas Rattlesnake Show as well.
Thanks for that, Steve. And let's go kind of back into your history and talk about Blackhawk County Conservation Board and what that was all about and how that enabled you to give back.
Well, I've been involved in the outdoors pretty much all of my working career and my playing career, and I was fortunate enough to have been able to combine both of them. I worked for Blackhawk County Conservation Board for 36 years and served as a director, and so that kept me in the outdoors. I worked my way up. I was a park ranger, and I was out there planting food plots and planting trees and doing all those kind of things for a number of years, and then I turned into the administrative end of things, dealing with the dollars and all that, but that's all important. But one of the things that I really enjoyed while I was involved with Blackhawk County was we recognized that deer population within the confines of the center of the city, because we had a nature center and a state park right in the middle of our city here, and deer were quite frankly getting a little out of hand in there. Numbers were shooting up and up and up, and in the early 90s, and so we undertook to try and control those deer numbers a little bit. And after 3 years of research and study and a lot of consternation, we were finally able to institute Iowa's first urban deer hunt utilizing archery, and it's been going on ever since. It's been very successful, but at the time you would have thought we were the worst people on the earth because we were going to shoot all the people that rode their bikes in town as well as joggers, and it was just going to be mayhem, and of course that never came to pass. Our deer numbers are where they need to be. There's plenty of deer in the area, but we aren't seeing the car collisions and all that kind of thing quite as extensively as we used to, and so it's worked out very well, and so that was kind of a highlight. We actually trapped deer and radio collared them and did all kinds of research as part of this, and so that was kind of highlight of that. But and then after that, then I moved into the Iowa Deer Classic, and so and also in that we also purchased I don't know how many thousands of acres of habitat that we purchased that are now available for people to hunt in and enjoy and fish and all the other kinds of things people like to do in the outdoors. So yeah, it was a natural thing for me.
Running a show and having thousands of people and literally millions of dollars of manufacturing involved. Where do you see the future of hunting going?
Well, I think the future is very good. There are some concerning things out there with the number of hunters and those of us that are baby boomers getting up there in age where maybe we're not participating as much, or at least some of my friends are. They don't have to worry about me. I'm out there, but we're starting to see that. But hey, the real growth area is in women. We're seeing more and more women's things out there and more marketing directed towards women because they are getting involved. We need to get youth involved. There's lots of distractions out there that keep kids from the outdoors, and we need to get them involved. So I'm concerned about that. I think as far as deer management goes, I think we're pretty well on track. There's some concerns about CWD and some of the disease issues out there, but all in all, I think our deer herds are doing well. As far as trophy hunting or going after larger deer, that's nothing but good. Years ago it was kind of, if it was brown, it's down, and everybody felt good about shooting a buck and didn't care whether it was big, little, or indifferent. And whereas now most of the people I'm associated with let them walk until they let them get another 2 or 3 years of age on them, and then they've got a real trophy. So we're seeing a lot more nice deer. In fact, I mentioned all those ones earlier. We're really seeing a lot of big deer harvested this year, and that's because people are holding their fire. We see pretty liberal harvest of does these days, and quite frankly, that helps take some of the pressure off of the bucks and that. But we've got to watch those kind of things. License sales are not as good as we'd like to see, I think, because that's where a lot of the money for this kind of thing comes from. But so we need to get people. But I think overall, when you look at what's going on in the industry, I know ATA set another record with the number of exhibitors and things that they had out there. I'm sure optimistic.
Now we gotta go back and head up to Alaska, and there was a Sitka blacktail that you put on the ground, but somebody took offense to that and kind of took it away. What's the story of that?
Well, on Kodiak Island, there's lots of blacktail deer, and anybody who, if you haven't hunted blacktail deer, you should. It's a really fun experience. However, it's Alaska, and Alaska is an extremely tough environment to hunt in. But anyway, one day I had shot a fairly nice black-tail deer and was in the process of caping it out, and my son-in-law said, "Oh my God, there's a bear," and looked up, and there was a 10-foot brown bear standing about 40 yards away eyeing us, and we moved off with the video camera, and I shot great video of this 10-foot bear coming up and picking up an entire buck deer in one fell swoop, and walked off like a cat carrying a mouse with that entire deer. And 24 hours later, we found where he had consumed that deer, and there wasn't a thing left. He'd eaten the entire deer in 24 hours.
Oh my
goodness! So that was quite an experience to see that.
Now, were you able to shoot another deer, or could you, or were you done?
Yeah. Actually, the tags are pretty liberal up there, so that really wasn't an issue. Okay. It was worth the price of admission by far. Just being part of that, to actually see that bear come in. And he never got aggressive, though. I mean, it wasn't a case that he was showing his teeth and mad at us and everything else. He just kind of waltzed in like he owned the place, and I'll take that deer, and off he went.
Well, the guys, I've never hunted up there, but the guys that I know have, they said, when you shoot, you better get on that deer, get it cleaned up, and get it out of there, because you just rang the dinner bell.
That's exactly. I mean, I'm here to tell you that's what happens. This one was shot with a rifle, and so he heard the shot, and I know full well that's exactly what happened.
Yeah, just amazing what we see. What we see in nature and the memories. I was just talking to the executive director, Kevin Orthman of Pullman. It's the stories. We love hunting and we love eating our game, but you sit around and just think at the Iowa Deer Classic, the stories that are going to come from the deer that are on display and the deer that come through the door, for scoring. Everybody's got a story, and that's what, in my opinion, makes the hunting tradition strong and well. It's because of the stories and the memories we can share, and we're all a huge industry, but it's really a small community. Your thoughts on that?
Oh, definitely. I agree with you. You mentioned saving the memories. I've got a whole house full of mounted specimens, and I can just sit down and daydream about those things. And it's not because they're huge trophies or anything like that, but they bring back those memories of the circumstances involved and the trials and tribulations that you went through. We mentioned Alaska, and boy, I've been up there a number of times, and every trip I've ever been on has been affected by the weather. I'm talking in terms of being delayed like 6 days of getting back out of the bush and that kind of thing. And yeah, you know, the fact that you survived all those kind of things just adds to all of that. And I happen to be one that enjoys that aspect. And I imagine it's not for everyone, but I like being able to say that I survived under some of those conditions. We were up there one time when a storm went by that it was the lowest pressure reading ever recorded in Alaska. And if you know anything about Alaska, they get tremendous storms. Well, this was one of the biggest ever, and we got stuck for 6 extra days on that. And then, you know, you got to worry about surviving and everything else. I've run out of food. I've had to have food airdropped to me. So yeah, that's all part of Alaska and that whole wilderness experience you go out there for. You know, if it was a cakewalk, and you know, whitetail deer, if they were predictable and everybody knew everything there is to know about them, I wouldn't have hunted them for 50 years. You know, you might have given up way back when, but they're such a wily and uncanny critter. It's amazing how they can just show up some days, and there they are. So that's what keeps you in a tree stand, as far as I'm concerned.
I agree, and one thing I'd like to chat with you about is river floating. You know, is that in a raft or a dory, or how do you do that up in Alaska?
Well, the best for my notion is a raft, because you know you can take them on a plane and you can inflate them, and that's what I've done. I really enjoy river rafting. There's something new around every bend on the river. You're not going back. You know, there's no propelling a raft back upstream unless you want to drag it up there, and believe me, you aren't going to do that. And so it's that whole of wondering what's coming up next, and you know, you might make camp and decide this area is full of moose tracks, and that's where you're going to stay, and that kind of thing. But I really enjoy that kind of aspect of it. It gets you way in the back country. You know, a lot of people experience Alaska from the road system, but there's way more to Alaska when you get completely off the road and realize that you're on your own. When that float plane or that plane flies away and you realize that all your planning and everything that you did is going to make or break your trip, I enjoy that aspect of things. So yeah.
What's the longest float you did up there?
Oh, I've done 100 miles.
And how many days? 10 days or?
Oh, that was about 10 days, yeah. Yeah. That was really too long because you had to make time on a deal like that. You know, you didn't have time to stop and maybe hunt a little more. But we learned a lot on that trip, and No, it was a bunch of buddies of mine and I. In fact, we ran out of food on that one too, but that's okay. We survived it.
Well, yeah, we're talking to each other.
That's right.
Yeah,
so,
and so folks, you know, here's a couple of guys that you know, been hunting for a little bit and seen some stuff, and it's the memories. You know, it's the memories of those airdrops and going, we got no more peanut butter, we got no more jelly, we got no more bread, we got no more nothing.
Yeah, when you're down to your last pack of oatmeal, you kind of have to go, huh? But I got to tell you another one on a river float. This happened to be a fishing trip, and we took off the first day, and we had stayed overnight in a outfitters camp there and had gotten to know them pretty well. And we got on the river and put a few miles behind us, and this trip hadn't come together like it should have. We'd had weather issues, and we finally got on the water and got a few miles behind us and stopped on a sandbar and started fishing, and I was knee deep in there, waist deep actually, in the river, catching grayling on dry flies, just having great moment. And here came this super cub flying over the hill, and it flew over where we were and did a little dipsy doodle, and then turned around and came back around again, and it flipped something out of the plane at us. It was a little package with streamers on it and everything, and so I ran over to see what had just been airdropped to us, and here it was 24 fresh, out of the oven chocolate chip cookies, still
No
warm.
way.
It doesn't get any better than that, does it?
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Yep.
I've never had that. I've had other stuff dropped to me. But I've never had chocolate chip cookies. Man, what did you have to pay for that? I mean, what was?
Well, it was just a great guy. It was a great guy, this outfitter, and he didn't have any. It was in the summer months, so it was he was primarily a hunting outfitter. And he had, he didn't have much going on, and his wife made cookies, and he just said, "Well, I'm going to go fix those boys up with a treat." So.
Oh my goodness! And you talk about that's a memory that'll never go away.
Oh yeah. So.
There you are, dry flying for grilling and munching on a wonderful chocolate chip cookie. That's pretty good.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite stories up there. I mean, we were in the middle of nowhere, of course.
Oh yeah. So, but if you've never been up to Alaska, there's more airplanes, there's more float planes or Tundra tires than there are cars, actually.
Oh yeah. No, they're everywhere. That's a major form of transportation up there, and I love every minute of it. I think float planes and Tundra tires are the greatest things there ever was. So.
Oh. Yeah, I'm just thinking the shortest takeoff I had, it was measured in feet because he landed on a ridge and he spun it around, and so the wind was coming right up the face. He had all the lift he needed. I mean, he literally let the brake off, and we were airborne, and then we just dove down, the ridge and pulled it up when he got his airspeed up over the river and folks, to even higher talking about memories, but that's what this hunting thing is all about, and that's what you're going to see at the Iowa Deer Classic coming up March 3rd, 4th, and 5th. It's people sitting around and telling stories. And people want to sell their product and you want to have the best of the best, but don't go there and miss the story. That would be my biggest thing. And I'm going to be there, podcasting and doing live streams and anything I can do to help promote what we have in middle America. And we have some of the best, if not the best, deer hunting, within a couple hundred miles of Des Moines. I mean, you think of Wisconsin, you think of Iowa, you think of Illinois, and then you think of Ohio. All those places aren't too far away.
Oh, yeah. Yep. And you're right. It is a big party. These exhibitors, they come from all around. They know each other, and they really enjoy the whole aspect of it, or they wouldn't be there. And, hey, I got to thinking, we haven't even told anybody, but it's in Des Moines, which is the capital of Iowa, and it's right downtown. In fact, it's within eyesight of the Capitol building. It's only 2 blocks off of the interstate there, and so it's not hard to find the Iowa Event Center, and it's quite a facility. We occupy about 300,000 square feet of that building as part of our all of our doings and goings on at the Iowa Deer Classic. So
is parking pretty easy, Steve?
Oh gosh, I wish you wouldn't have asked, but no, parking is always an issue when you're in downtown in the metro area. But people get it done. They're there. You got to drive around a little bit. There's a bunch of ramps and that kind of thing. I'd hate to paint a picture that it's a good situation, but no, you'll figure it out. You'll get there.
Well, thanks for that. And we're at the point of the show, Steve. Get some shout-outs. And I know you got a list a mile long, but, do the best you can.
Okay. Well, hey, it's just all the people that are involved in this show. It's my exhibitors. It's the people that come to the show. It's the celebrities. It's the other folks that we've got a whole host of volunteers with clubs and organizations that are out there spending their whole 3 days making this happen. It's just amazing how many people are involved in this show, and it's tough for me to keep track of them sometime, but we make it happen. It just about I have to reach to the bottom of my toes for my adrenaline reserves to stay upright during this whole with this exciting 3 days, but I wouldn't have it any other way. So yeah, there's a whole bunch of people out there, and I hate to start listing them because there's too many would get left out. So just anybody that's involved with the Iowa Deer Classic is really special and really makes this thing happen. So
Well, Steve Finegan, on behalf of the 1,000 listeners of Whitetail Rendezvous across North America, guys, get out there and support it. I'm driving in 1,000 miles from Colorado just to be there because a lot of my friends and guests said you got to be at the Iowa Deer Classic. So I'm just looking for a fantastic time and to connect with people. And Steve runs this thing, and you've heard his stories, and he's not just doing this because it's a job, it's a way of life, and it's one way that he can give back. So props to you, Steve, and I can't wait to see you in a week.
Okay, you and all your listeners, come on out. So.
Thanks for joining us. Be sure to tune in tomorrow for another episode of Whitetail Rendezvous, where you can listen and learn from the experts so you can be more successful on your next hunt. Until next time, listen, learn, and succeed.